Somewhere out there right now, in a forest you've probably driven past 100 times, something is watching you. Not with the kind of glancing awareness most animals have, but with an intensity that's almost uncomfortable to think about. It can hear your footsteps from a quarter-mile away. It can see in conditions so dark that you'd be completely blind. And if it decides to move toward you, you won't hear a single sound until it's already there. That's an owl. And I promise you, by the time this video is over, you're going to feel very differently about one of the most familiar birds on the planet. Fact 1. An owl's eyes are so large they literally cannot move. I know that sounds strange, so let me explain. Most animals, including us, have round eyeballs that sit in a socket and rotate freely. You can roll your eyes, look sideways, glance down without moving your head. Owls cannot do any of that. Their eyes aren't really balls at all. They're elongated tubes, almost like a pair of binoculars built directly into the skull, and they're held in place by rigid bony rings called sclerotic rings. These structures are so fixed that the eye cannot move even slightly in any direction. Here's where it gets fascinating. To compensate for this, owls evolved one of the most extraordinary neck structures in the animal kingdom. They can rotate their heads 270 degrees in either direction. Not 180, 270. That's 3/4 of a full circle, and 90 degrees up and down. So while you move your eyes to check something in your peripheral vision, an owl turns its entire head, smoothly, silently, in a fraction of a second. But why go through all that evolutionary effort to lock the eyes in place? Because of what those eyes can do. Owl eyes make up as much as 5% of their total body weight. For scale, your eyes are about 0.0003% of your weight. These aren't just large eyes. They're the most light-sensitive eyes of any animal that has ever lived on land. Some species of owl can see in conditions that are 100 times darker than what the human eye can handle. 100 times. That's not an incremental improvement. That's a completely different category of vision. And here's the detail I find almost impossible to wrap my head around. In some owl species, the eyes are so large that if you look directly into the owl's ear canal, you can actually see the back of its eyeball from the other side. That's how much space those eyes take up inside the skull. Fact 2. Owls can hunt in complete darkness using sound alone. Not dim light. Not near darkness. Complete, total, pitch black darkness. Zero light whatsoever. Barn owls in particular have been tested in laboratory conditions in sealed, light-proof rooms, and they can locate and catch a moving mouse with perfect accuracy without a single photon of light reaching their eyes. They're navigating entirely by sound. The reason this is possible comes down to one of nature's most elegant engineering solutions: asymmetrical ears. Most owls have ears that are positioned at slightly different heights on the sides of their head. One ear is higher than the other. This creates a tiny difference in the timing of sound arriving at each ear. We're talking about microseconds. But the owl's brain processes that difference and uses it to calculate the exact three-dimensional location of the source of the sound. Not just left or right, but up or down, near or far. There's more. Many owls have a disc of stiff, densely packed feathers on their face. That round, flat face you've seen in photographs. That's not just aesthetic. It functions as a parabolic reflector, funneling sound waves toward the ear openings like a satellite dish. The owl is essentially wearing a built-in hearing amplifier on its face at all times. And the result of all of this, the asymmetrical ears, the facial disc, the neural processing, is that a barn owl hunting in total darkness has a spatial resolution of sound that is 10 times more precise than any other animal that has ever been tested. 10 times more precise than any other animal. It knows where you are before you know it's there. Fact 3. Owls fly in complete silence, and scientists figure out why. If you've ever stood near a large bird in flight, a heron, a pelican, a goose, you've heard it. That heavy, rhythmic whooshing of large wings pushing through air. It's unmistakable. It's loud. An owl in flight makes no sound at all. This isn't an approximation or a poetic exaggeration. It has been measured. The acoustic signature of an owl in flight is below the threshold of detection, not just for human ears, but for the prey it's hunting. A mouse cannot hear an owl coming. There is literally nothing to hear. The mechanism behind this is one of the most studied examples of biological noise reduction in science. Owl wing feathers have 3 separate structural adaptations working simultaneously. The leading edge of the primary feathers, the ones that hit the air first, have a cone-like serrated structure that breaks up air turbulence into smaller currents, eliminating the vortex noise that generates sound in other birds. The trailing edge of the wings have a soft fringe that further diffuses remaining air movement. And over the entire surface of the wing, a layer of velvety microstructure absorbs any residual sound vibrations before they can amplify. Aerospace engineers have been studying owl feathers for years, trying to replicate these properties in aircraft design and wind turbines. The principle that you can dramatically reduce noise by manipulating the way a surface interacts with airflow at a microscopic level has become an entire field of engineering research. And the owl solved it millions of years ago. Fact 4. A third eyelid closes sideways across the eye, and owls can operate each eye independently. Owls have 3 eyelids. Most people know about the top and bottom lids. Those work similarly to ours, closing vertically. But there's a third one called the nictitating membrane that closes horizontally from the inner corner of the eye outward, like a translucent curtain sweeping across the surface. This membrane serves multiple functions. It cleans and moistens the eye without fully blocking vision. It protects the eye at the moment of striking prey, when talons and beaks and panicked animals create a real risk of injury to one of the most valuable organs in the owl's body. And it's translucent rather than opaque, so the owl can still see through it even while the membrane is closed. Here's what I find genuinely strange about this. Owls can dilate and contract the pupil of each eye completely independently. While one eye is adjusted for a bright patch of light on the ground, the other can simultaneously be optimized for the darker shadow of a tree branch. 2 different exposure settings running in parallel in real time. No camera system in the world does this automatically. The owl does it without thinking. Fact 5. Owls swallow their prey whole and then vomit the bones. I saved this one for last because it's the kind of fact that sounds so wrong the first time you hear it that most people assume it's an exaggeration. It isn't. Owls have relatively weak stomach acid compared to other birds of prey, where eagles and hawks can partially digest bones before passing them. Owls cannot. So what happens is this. The owl catches and swallows its prey whole or in large pieces. The digestible parts, muscle, organs, fat, get processed normally. But everything that can't be digested, bones, fur, feathers, the exoskeletons of insects, gets compressed into a tight, compact cylinder inside the owl's stomach and then regurgitated back up through the beak several hours later. These are called owl pellets, and they're not waste in the way we usually think of it. They're extraordinarily precise capsules of information. Scientists who study owls collect and dissect these pellets to understand exactly what that owl has been eating and in what quantities. You can reconstruct the complete skeleton of a small mammal from a single owl pellet. Skull, jaw, every tiny vertebra perfectly preserved inside a packet of matted fur. There's something almost meditative about that, if you think about it. The owl hunts in silence, sees in darkness, hears things that should be inaudible, and then, when it's done, it packages its meal into a neat capsule and sets it down like a receipt. Owls have been living alongside humans for as long as there have been humans to observe them. We've made them symbols of wisdom, of death, of mystery. We've put them on logos and coats of arms in children's books. But I think most people walk through the world without knowing what an owl actually is, what it can actually do. It hunts without light. It flies without sound. It sees things we cannot see, hears things we cannot hear, and processes the world through sensory systems so refined that we're still studying them, still trying to reverse engineer them, still finding new things to be surprised by. The next time you're outside at night and you hear that low, slow call from somewhere in the trees, know that whatever made that sound already knows exactly where you are. It knew before you stopped walking. It knew before you looked up. That, I think, is worth knowing. If something in here made you see owls differently, I'd genuinely love to know which fact got you. Drop it in the comments. And if you want more of this, there's a lot more in the files.